What's something you'd like the world to know? Homeless man here. It's not horrible if you have a job and a car to sleep in, but it's still not fun and can be pretty humiliating when people find out. Essentially, I wake up in my driver's seat, which thankfully reclines pretty far, take my blankets off and drive to the gym. There I shower, change my clothes, brush my teeth and shave, and then I go to work. I get off and go back to my car, maybe get some dinner from a restaurant, or if I'm saving money, just buy a can of soup and eat it cold. I charge my phone while watching YouTube for a while, then go to sleep. Repeat daily. On my days off I go to the laundromat and wash my clothes and towels. The universe is everything, so it isn't expanding into anything, it's just expanding. All of the galaxies in the universe are moving away from each other, and every region of space is being stretched, but there's no center they're expanding from and no outer edge to expand into anything else. The pain that comes from bullying and mental health struggles. My life would have been so much better if these things hadn't happened or had been understood earlier in my life. It's okay to want better for your children even if better isn't with you. It's selfish to keep your kids in a bad situation with you knowing that situation isn't even good for yourself. You're not a bad mom, dad for choosing adoption. Had a kid at 15 and been getting shit for not having her in my care even though I knew what was better for her. Also, it's an open adoption so I see her when allowed to. Also, I'm 19 now. In school, we were around the age of 11 I guess. A guy from another class, same year, have been bullying me for months for basically existing. Examples being that he felt I looked more like an Alan. Just to be clear, that's not my name. He also bullied me for sailing and boxing in my free time. He defiantly had the attitude of someone believing to be better than his peers. Anyway, one day at recess we played football or soccer if you prefer, and he was way better than me, but I had maybe 10 kilograms more to move with than him. Not much, I know. So I was able to take the ball from him and he flipped, pushing and kicking me, and something just clicked and I had butted him. He dazed to the ground. He never did anything again. My teacher knew the history and just let it go since she knew that it was his own fault. Mostly middle school. I'm Russian, but live in Canada, and after a class about the Cold War, some people got pretty mad at me for existing. Edit. Holy shit, this has exploded. Thank you all for the upvotes. I appreciate it very much. I was walking on a bridge about to go bridge jumping into an irrigation canal with my buddies. A big truck swerves across the lanes and almost hits us. I flip off the driver and immediately the truck turns around. The driver gets out and proceeds to tell me that he is going to f***ing kill me. Then we engage in a fight. He tries to throw me over the bridge but I managed to get to the ground. He hit me over the head at least 5 times before getting off me. I landed one on his chin but it didn't slow him down. Long story short, he was on meth. It wasn't a fair fight lol, and was sentenced to 5 years. He was already on parole. I had a gnarly time testifying in front of him and his one friend who stared me down like he was gonna kill me. In every single instance, someone else started it. I was always told, never throw the first punch, but feel free to end the fight as you see fit. Sometimes it was over a misunderstanding, rumor, lie, or money. In one case, I had a gun pulled on me because I asked for a receipt. You never know what people are going to do. I once got hit with a glass of Guinness because the bar I was working in wouldn't let a customer change the football match on TV. In the same bar, 20 Scottish lads started a riot because Scotland were losing a match on TV. Both incidents were fueled by football and alcohol. I suppose the TV was a common denominator as well. I have been in several but this was my first. He was one of my bullies and I usually just ignored him, but one day he started talking some absolutely horrible stuff about my grandpa, about how he was supposed to die in an accident and that he is happy my grandpa wasn't able to speak or leave the bed, and later tried to destroy my school bag and books. I grabbed him by his arms and just threw him to the ground and held him there. I wasn't punching him or anything, but his friends were mocking him so hard about the fact that a girl beat him. He actually stopped bothering me after that, so win-win. Edit. Grammatical mistake. So, long story, the only fight I have been in was when I was 15 and the other person was 30. So, my uncle at the time was like 50 and married a 30-year-old. Well, one weekend they stayed at our house. The first night it started going downhill. She told my sister and I we were being too loud and it was past our bedtime. It was 9:30 and we were teenagers in our own house. We didn't have a bedtime. The next day, I caught her and her stepdaughter, who was like 20-25, talking shit about my mom. They never really liked my mom that much, which is whatever, but how dare they talk bad about my mom in her house. I was pissed and called them out. They were both red-faced and said I didn't know what I had heard, so I tell my mom. And I'm just so mad in a 15-year-old girl kind of way. She blows it off and tries to calm me down. Day 3. We're having a cookout or whatever with some of my family and parents' friends. We're getting set up and people start showing up. My dad assigns me to making pink lemonade in a 5-gallon drink cooler. I start doing it and my uncle's wife comes up to me bossing me around or whatever, and my exact words were, "If you think you know everything, then you do it." And I just walked away, leaving all the stuff there. A couple hours pass and I'm sitting at a table with my friend, my brother and his wife. I'm holding their 6-month-old baby in my lap. My uncle's wife comes to the table, and standing across from me, I think she had been drinking, begins to scream and cuss at me and tell me what a bitch I am and how much she hates me and if I was her kid she would beat my ass, etc. Well, she's holding a drink in her hand and after she's done ranting, I don't even say a word, just stare at her blankly. I was a 15-year-old girl and knew exactly how to piss people off. Well, she says I'm so mad I could just dump this drink right in your face. I shrugged my shoulders and said then do it, and oh my god fucking-did. Well, I sort of blacked out because I didn't even think and barely remembered what happened next. I just remember my brother bear hugging me with my feet off the ground. Apparently, she dumped that drink right in my face and I threw the baby on my lap, went around that table and beat that bitch's ass. I thought my dad was going to kill me and I cried so hard once I realized what had happened. But my dad was more or less on my side. He doesn't condone fighting, but he realized that she had been treating me like shit the whole time. Punched an abusive boyfriend in the face when I was 19. Don't really want to get into everything that led up to it. I regret using physical violence, but I think I was too young and inexperienced to know what else to do, and it's the only thing that allowed me to escape. An argument over whether there's a Halo mod in Minecraft or not. The resultant injuries were me getting stabbed in the head with a pencil by my best friend. Next day he came to apologize because apparently there was a Halo mod in Minecraft. High school, there was a douchebag in my ear who liked to pick fights then run off, so he provoked me. I ignored him till he said something about raping me later. I ran after him, he ran. Unfortunately for him I was one of the fastest runners in the district. I body slammed him against the wall. As he bounced off it, I turned and punched him. He hit the wall again, got knocked out, got a major concussion and 3 cracked ribs. I got a 2-week suspension, but when he came back to school, he wasn't very mouthy anymore. Generally, bullying of some sort, physical, that is, somebody decides to take a cheap shot, because they figure they can get away with it. I respond, they escalate, and I go full on in response. When I was living with my sister and brother-in-law, they had a day-long party with friends, went out drinking, playing pool, darts, came home, kept drinking. By midnight, my sister and brother-in-law, among others, wanted to call it a night, but a friend's brother refused to end things and go home, which meant others, who were his ride, couldn't leave. And the guy was really disrespectful to my brother-in-law. At this point, I got home from work. Sister tells me what's happening, so I offer to plainly tell the guy it's time to go home. Well, first thing, I approach the wrong guy, and tell him things are done, time to go home. Boom. The actual troublemaker, who was like twice my size, and bigger than my brother-in-law, too, jumps up, curses me, and starts to pin me to the wall. I'm not big, but I'm very fast, have had some martial arts training, and, because of a lifetime of being bullied, I have certain reflexes when I'm attacked. So, I punched him in the throat as he tried to grapple me. Note, I'm aware of how dangerous that move is. I pulled it, caught him in the trachea with the web between thumb and fingers, so, it hurt, but didn't do much real damage. Luckily, his brother grabbed him before it went further, at which point, basically, he gave up and agreed to go home, complaining about the cheap shot all along. I guess he couldn't speak right for a week after. Former stepdad. Mom had a friend drowned. He'd had a drink, bit of an alcoholic. He tried touching my mom's friend. She didn't like. She pushed him. I laid the cunt out, broke an eye socket and nose for him, shortly followed by divorce papers off my mom. Once I got in a fight in the 3rd grade and it was with a special kid, but being like 6'7", I just thought he was annoying, but I didn't do anything about it until one day this kid, let's call him Ed. One day Ed walks up to me at free time and says something along the lines of I bet I could beat you up, and at this point 6-year-old me was fed up, so I said well let's fight at recess. He said okay, and so we did. When I found Ed at recess and we started fighting, I ended up winning 3-0. I remember he tried to kick me in the balls multiple times, but I was a tall kid and he was pretty short, so his foot barely hit my privates. I told my mom and my brother about the fight and I told them it was with Ed, and later that day my mom told me what special Ed was and why I shouldn't do that, but my brother was proud because he didn't know Ed was special. Since there are a fair amount of fight-prone females here, of which I am one, I have a question. Is there a name for the male companions of said fight-prone females? I was visiting an old high school friend, female, who like me takes no shit, and we are both married to calm, patient men, who both probably live in dread of having to finish what their wives start. Need a name, preferably German and long, for that. This dude back in high school wanted to prove that he could kick my ass. That's it. That was the whole rationale. I was a lanky tall dude who maybe weighed in at 135, and this dude wanted to say he was able to beat me up. For context, I was raised with no male influence at home and my hobbies included video games, reading, being an app student, and writing stories with my friends. I did my best to avoid conflict as a kid. Not exactly a notch in your belt as far as toughness goes. Apparently when blindsided with the smack to the side of the head, though, I did have a capacity for conflict, as distasteful as it was. Not saying I won, because I was bleeding too, but I didn't make it easy. Fuck that guy, with something hard and sandpapery. I have a very good friend, best friend, and in school we were very comfortable with hitting each other in class. He started hitting me a lot and one day he gave me pedigree triple 1. Every time in washroom he used to fight with me and I usually responded back. One day in washroom filled with students in lunch break he slapped on my face as a joke. I slapped him very strongly that everyone shouted ho ooh. Then we both were on floor. Teacher came but he was very nice and didn't complain to my class teacher. This was 2 years ago when I was 15. Yo. Frat brothers smashing glass bottles on the sidewalk and throwing glass bottles at my porch at 2 a.m. One swung at me when I came outside and squared up. I countered and his face landed in broken glass. Then he was disoriented and punched his friend who was with him after he helped him up and knocked that kid down. 200% knockdown ratio in street fights might be my most impressive life stat. One day in around 6th-7th grade, a group of friends and I were playing basketball. One of the balls hit me directly in the front of my face. Immediately I felt embarrassed, but also enraged, since we had some beef for the following months. In an act of revenge, I hit the kid who I assumed was the one that hit me. He fell down right after crying quietly to himself. A teacher nearby noticed and took me inside to have a talk with me about what I had done. I never got in trouble, because the kid I had hit was rude to most of the teachers at that school. He moved away or got transferred the next year and I never got a chance to apologize for what I did. He lied about me not tagging him in tag and told me I was a fetus and I could never touch him. So I shoved him, went to shove him again and his fist almost missed my face. I realized then and there if I kept going I was going to get beaten and stopped. There are glitches as the IRS online tax withholding estimator tool used to fill out Form W-4 that can lead to incorrect tax withholding. Estimating the tax you owe for the year yourself isn't too hard and can save you a ton of grief. It takes 3 minutes if you know the basics of the tax code, about the same amount of time as using the online tool. If you really need to use the IRS tool because you're bad at math, do not use it. If you just started a new job less than one whole pay period ago, that will trigger one of the glitches. Also, filing your own tax return is harder than it needs to be, but it's not as hard as TurboTax wants you to think it is. Most people are not professional finger models or interstellar cod fishermen, and most people do not need TurboTax. Look up free file fillable forms on the IRS website to file your taxes manually for free. Takes longer, but it also helps you understand finance better. Knowledge is power, for example see above. With modern medicine, it's very unlikely a properly medicated HIV+ person will pass on the virus through sex. The average lifespan of an HIV+ person isn't that much shorter than an HIV person. If you use 4 drugs or have multiple sex partners, get tested ASAP so you can get treated. Changing your mind is not going to end the world. It doesn't mean you're disloyal to your ideology. Listening to reason isn't going to make your head explode. Looking at things critically, rather than accepting the narrative you like as fact, is for the coward who's more afraid of being wrong than he is of being true. Too many people in the world are allergic to changing their mind. They come up in the face of reason, logic, undisputable fact, and rather than changing their mind, rather than recognizing that their behavior or belief needs to change, it's the facts or logic or reason that needs to change, but in the end, they're only fooling themselves. A young guy that was around my age went missing in 2016 near my house. His name is Logan Ziendelman. The disappearance is one of the more stranger ones in my opinion. And because of where it happened and his age I feel a strange connection to it. I know thousands of people go missing every year, but I want some justice for this poor kid and his family. So I guess I want as many people to know about it as possible, in hopes that he gets found. Escaping from a terrible home and making a good life for yourself is never, ever all's well that ends well. It is a battle that has to be fought continually, with every deck stacked against you. Sometimes it's unbelievably tough and sometimes it eases up, but it never goes away. Even if they look the same as everyone else, every single one of these people is carrying an extra, unimaginable burden. I just got out of my depression and I'm hella proud of it. Took me 7 years but it's now finally done. No more suicidal thought, No more mutilation and no more hurting myself, fuck yeah. When you decide to have a child, it's unfair to expect everyone else to adjust their universe to match your new norm. You are still responsible for meeting your friends and family halfway on things. Everyone understands new parenting struggles and it'll take you time to adjust your life, but everyone also has their own life to balance.